Syrian refugee crisis is a critical humanitarian crisis. Millions of Syrians have been displaced since 2011. These refugees are seeking asylum in economically strong countries like the US, but are being denied hospitality based on arbitrary claims. We must work on housing these refugees and bring forth the facts surrounding the Syrian refugee crisis. The matter at hand is that the US government is denying thousands of refugees, 10,000 to be exact, that the Obama administration previously approved. They're denying these refugees access to the United States and ultimately denying them of any kind of safety and security as they flee their war-torn countries. The government is justifying these actions, claiming that this denial of asylum is in favor of national security, when in reality there is no national threat and these claims are based on misinformation. Aleppo was a tragedy that reached headlines all across the globe. A town of 250,000 people, women, men, and children, were barricaded in the city with no way out. They had no access to food or water. They were civilian casualties where thousands were injured as a result of the war that they wanted no part in. Aleppo marked the peak of Syrian war brutality, but by no means was the beginning nor end of this relentless turmoil that the Syrian civilians have endured. Since the start of the Syrian conflict in 2011, over 250,000 civilians have died, including children. 7.6 million have been displaced and 3.7 million have fled their homes. Meanwhile, first world countries like the US are patronizing refugees. As a result, it is my generation experiencing a new era of McCarthyism. Here we can see all different airstrikes to this date in Syria, and in the regions that are colored you can see where different countries and organizations are occupying, so you can see just how much conflict is going on in this area. The end of events like Aleppo have no end in sight. With nationalism on the rise in the Middle East, Europe, and the US, there are more attacks to come and civilian lives at stake. Right now, there are thousands of civilians seeking medical aid in Syria, and Syrian refugees that need medical care. These people are just like you and me, caught in the crossfire of a war that has nothing to do with them. While the US and European countries are shutting their doors, Syrians are left in refugee camps and seeking medical care. Many doctors and nurses have fled the city to avoid the bombings and attacks on the city. However, when battle hits in countries like Syria, Doctors Without Borders come in and aid men and women and children caught in the crossfire. Here we can see a hospital that was bombed in Syria. Unfortunately, hospitals and schools are popular targets for bombings. War continues to cripple the area. With every attack, disease and malnutrition spreads. Over 2,780 children were rapidly vaccinated against measles in communities that were suffering from the consequences of war and ground offenses. This is the 30-bed MSF-supported hospital that was bombed, leaving the population of 40,000 without access to medical services. With turmoil growing in the area and no one in sight, the need for aid is stronger than ever. Many countries are closing their doors and aren't interested in providing relief because many of the refugees are branded as terrorists by other countries overtaken by nationalism. The U.S. has denied 10,000 refugees access to the country, claiming that they may have affiliation with ISIS, with absolutely no evidence to these claims. Unfortunately, we as U.S. citizens can't do much to change what's going on in the White House. But fortunately, by funding Doctors Without Borders, you can contribute to the establishment of medical centers, hospitals, where victims suffering from trauma, burns, disease, and injury need care. These facilities also offer physical rehabilitation and mental health consultation. Your funding goes directly to the people in need, specifically in Syria, where the conditions and frequencies of bombings are only worsening. A monthly donation can help thousands of children receive the food and vaccinations they need. By donating to Doctors Without Borders, you're not only providing much needed medical support for families that are suffering and in need, you are also creating hope in areas where there is none. By donating to the medical aid of Syrians, you are counterattacking the governments responsible for bombing innocent children and the countries closing their doors on those same people. As citizens, we can collectively give to these communities and show that we stand in solidarity with them and lift them back onto their feet. Donating is as easy as visiting doctorswithoutborders.org and making either a one-time donation or a monthly donation to support victims in Syria. As our governments and others in North America as well as Europe are villainizing these refugees and shutting their doors on them, we have the opportunity to take a stand and fight for the people that are caught in the crossfire with no defense. We may not be able to change what's going on in the White House, but we can make a change where it matters. We can donate and help the people that need it most.